The mockery begins. The Zephyrian Dominion's pride. The Zephyrian Dominion stretched across 3 spiral arms of the galaxy, a testament to their 1,000-year reign of absolute power. From their crystal homeworld of Velthar, they commanded over 200 subjugated species and controlled the most advanced technology the galaxy had ever seen. Their massive dreadnoughts could crack planets in half. Their energy shields could withstand the fury of dying stars, and their warriors were bred for conquest across generations. Emperor Kethvar sat upon his throne of living metal, watching holographic displays of their latest territorial expansion. The Dominion had just absorbed the Crystalline Syndicate, adding another 50 star systems to their ever-growing empire. Around him, his council of war-bred advisors celebrated another effortless victory. To the Zephyrians, conquest wasn't just a way of life. It was their divine right, ordained by the cosmic forces themselves. The Zephyrians had evolved on a harsh world where only the strongest survived. Their natural exoskeletons could deflect energy weapons, their forearms made them formidable in combat, and their enhanced brains could process battle data faster than most species' computers. They viewed other races as either useful tools or obstacles to be eliminated. There was no middle ground in their philosophy of superiority. Their technology reflected this dominance. Plasma cannons that could melt through any known armor, gravitational manipulators that could crush enemy ships, like tin cans and quantum computers that could predict enemy movements before they happened. The Zephyrian military machine was a force that had never known defeat, never experienced doubt, and never shown mercy. First contact with the primitives. The message arrived on a Tuesday, transmitted through outdated electromagnetic waves that the Zephyrian communication arrays almost filtered out as cosmic background noise. A small blue planet from the outer rim of an unremarkable galaxy sector was attempting to make contact. The beings called themselves humans, and they were requesting an audience with the Galactic Council. Admiral Zexthul, the Dominion's chief military strategist, nearly deleted the transmission without reading it. When curiosity got the better of him, he opened the file and burst into laughter that echoed through the command center. The humans were using technology that the Zephyrians had abandoned centuries ago. Their crude chemical rockets could barely escape their own planet's gravity. And their most powerful weapons were fusion-based devices that wouldn't even scratch Zephyrian battle armor. The transmission included images of human achievements, towering cities, flying machines, and primitive space stations orbiting their homeworld. To the Zephyrians, it looked like children playing with toys. Their tallest buildings would be dwarfed by a single Zephyrian outpost. Their fastest ships moved slower than Zephyrian cargo vessels, and their entire military could be defeated by a single Dominion patrol craft. Word of the human transmission spread throughout the Empire like wildfire. Entertainment networks picked up the story, turning humanity's sincere attempt at first contact into comedy gold. Talk show hosts displayed human technology alongside Zephyrian equivalents, highlighting the laughable differences. A single Zephyrian energy rifle had more destructive power than humanity's largest bombs. Their personal transport vehicles moved faster than human military fighters. Emperor Kethvar himself took interest in the amusing discovery. During a public address to the Empire, he displayed the human message for all to see. "Behold," he announced, his voice dripping with condescension, "the galaxy's newest comedians. They believe they're ready to join civilized society with technology that wouldn't qualify as children's toys in our empire." The Great Dismissal. 3 months passed before the Zephyrians bothered to respond to Earth's transmission. Their reply was brief and brutal in its dismissiveness. Humanity was informed that they were not ready for galactic membership and should focus on reaching basic technological milestones before attempting contact again. The list of requirements was impossibly long and clearly designed to discourage further communication. But the humans didn't give up. They sent another message, then another. Each transmission showed incremental improvements in their technology, small advances that impressed them but seemed pathetic to Zephyrian observers. They had developed slightly more efficient engines, marginally better computers, and weapons that were fractionally more powerful. To the Dominion, It was like watching insects try to build skyscrapers. The persistence began to annoy high-ranking Zephyrian officials. Admiral Zexthul received daily reports about new human transmissions, each one more desperate than the last. The humans were sharing their scientific discoveries, offering cultural exchanges, and even proposing tribute arrangements. They seemed genuinely eager to prove themselves worthy of recognition. "They're like parasites," complained Counselor Velnoth during a military briefing. "They keep buzzing around, demanding attention they haven't earned. Perhaps we should send a single patrol ship to their system, just to remind them of their place in the cosmic order." The idea gained traction quickly. A demonstration of Zephyrian power would serve multiple purposes. It would silence the annoying human transmissions, provide entertainment for the Empire's citizens, and reinforce the Dominion's reputation for swift action against upstart species. The proposal moved through military channels with unusual speed, gaining approval from every level of command. The teaching fleet assemble's Emperor Kethvar approved the operation with casual indifference, signing the authorization between bites of his morning meal. The mission parameters were simple: travel to the human system, disable their primitive defenses, and make it clear that further contact attempts would result in more serious consequences. It was to be a lesson, not a war. Admiral Zexthul handpicked the fleet himself, selecting vessels that would provide maximum psychological impact without resorting to planet-killing superweapons. 50 of the Dominion's newest cruisers, each one capable of defeating entire human fleets single-handedly, would make the journey. Supporting them would be 300 fighter craft and a massive command dreadnought that served as the Admiral's flagship. The ships were a magnificent sight as they assembled in Zephyrian space. Each vessel bristled with energy weapons, their hulls gleaming with exotic alloys that could withstand direct hits from stellar weapons. The smallest fighter in the fleet carried more firepower than humanity's entire space program, while the command ship could lay waste to continents with a single barrage. Media crews documented every aspect of the fleet's preparation, turning the upcoming lesson into the Empire's most anticipated entertainment event in decades. Betting pools opened on how long human resistance would last. The longest estimate was 47 minutes, and most Zephyrians considered that optimistic. Military analysts predicted the humans would surrender immediately upon seeing the fleet's approach. The departure ceremony was broadcast live across the Empire. Emperor Kethvar himself delivered a speech celebrating the fleet's mission to educate primitive species about their proper place in the galactic hierarchy. Admiral Zexthul stood proudly at attention as the Emperor bestowed upon him the honorary title of Teacher of Inferiors, a designation that would be added to his military record. The journey to humiliation. The fleet's journey to Earth's solar system took 3 weeks, traveling through hyperspace corridors that humanity couldn't even detect, let alone use. During the voyage, Admiral Zexthul refined his strategy for maximum impact. The plan was elegantly simple: emerge from hyperspace in full battle formation, destroy a few human installations to demonstrate superior firepower, then broadcast surrender demands across all human communication channels. Intelligence reports suggested that Earth maintained several dozen orbital platforms and a handful of primitive warships. The platforms appeared to be scientific research stations rather than military installations, equipped with basic sensors and communication arrays. The warships were laughably small, carrying conventional weapons that couldn't penetrate Zephyrian shields even if concentrated in overwhelming numbers. The Admiral expected the operation to conclude within hours. Human leaders would see the hopelessness of resistance and immediately capitulate, agreeing to cease all attempts at galactic contact. The fleet would then return home as heroes, having solved an annoying problem with minimal effort and maximum effect. Communication intercepts from Earth showed increasing desperation among human leaders as their long-range sensors detected the approaching fleet. Their military forces were scrambling to defensive positions, their governments were issuing evacuation orders, and their media networks were broadcasting panic-inducing reports about an imminent alien invasion. The humans clearly understood they were outmatched. The final preparations as the fleet prepared to drop out of hyperspace Admiral Zexthul addressed his commanders one final time. The briefing room aboard his flagship was filled with the Empire's finest military minds, all eager to witness humanity's inevitable submission. Battle plans were distributed, target priorities were established, and rules of engagement were reviewed. Remember, the Admiral concluded, this is a teaching exercise, not an extermination. We want the humans to survive long enough to spread word of Zephyrian superiority throughout their primitive civilization. Disable their defenses, destroy their military assets, but leave their population centers intact. Fear is a more effective teacher than death. The countdown to hyperspace exit began, with technicians across the fleet reporting readiness status. Weapon systems powered up, shields activated at full strength, and targeting computers locked onto their designated objectives. The massive fleet hung in hyperspace like a predator ready to pounce on unsuspecting prey. In the final moments before emergence, Admiral Zexthul allowed himself a moment of satisfaction. This mission would cement his reputation as the Dominion's most effective military commander, the one who had finally silenced the annoying human transmissions. His name would be remembered throughout Zephyrian history as the admiral who taught humanity its proper place. The hyperspace exit began, reality warping around the massive fleet as they returned to normal space within Earth's solar system. Energy readings spiked across their sensors as the blue planet appeared on their tactical displays, exactly where intelligence had predicted. The moment of reckoning had arrived. The tables turn. The shock of first contact, the Zephyrian fleet materialized in Earth's outer solar system like a steel storm given form. 50 cruisers arranged in perfect battle formation, their hulls gleaming with the cold light of distant stars, while 300 fighters swarmed around them like deadly insects. At the formation's heart, Admiral Zexthul's command dreadnought cast shadows across nearby asteroids, its massive frame bristling with enough firepower to sterilize entire worlds. Admiral Zexthul stood on his bridge, watching tactical displays that showed Earth's pathetic defenses scrambling into position. Human vessels moved with desperate urgency toward intercept courses, their primitive engines leaving bright trails across the darkness. The largest human ship appeared to be roughly the size of a Zephyrian fighter, armed with kinetic weapons that wouldn't even register on Dominion shields. "Begin the demonstration," the Admiral commanded, his voice carrying across the bridge with casual authority. "Target their outermost installations first. Let them see what real power looks like, before we offer them terms." The fleet's weapon systems charged with harmonious precision, energy readings climbing as plasma cannons and disruptor arrays prepared to deliver their devastating payload. On Earth, human communication channels filled with panicked chatter as their sensors detected the impossible energy signatures building within the alien formation. But something was wrong. Admiral Zexthul frowned as his tactical officer reported anomalous readings from the human positions. Their ships were moving in patterns that seemed almost choreographed, maintaining precise formations despite their apparent technological limitations. More disturbing still, human energy signatures were climbing far beyond what their primitive power systems should have been capable of producing. The first strike goes wrong. The opening salvo launched exactly as planned. Brilliant lances of superheated plasma streaked across space toward their intended targets, followed by waves of disruptor energy designed to overload any defensive systems the humans might possess. The attack was precisely calculated to destroy 3 orbital platforms and disable 2 human warships without causing excessive casualties. The plasma bolts struck empty space. Not deflected, not absorbed, they simply passed through coordinates, where human installations had been moments before. Emergency alarms shrieked across the Zephyrian fleet as targeting computers struggled to reacquire locks on targets that seemed to have vanished from existence. "Sensor malfunction," Admiral Zexthul declared confidently, though uncertainty crept into his voice. "Recalibrate all systems and resume targeting procedures." But the recalibration revealed an impossible truth. The human installations hadn't been destroyed or disabled. They had moved. Orbital platforms that should have been fixed in geosynchronous orbit were now scattered throughout the solar system, appearing and disappearing from sensors in defiance of all known physics. Human warships blinked in and out of existence like ghosts, maintaining perfect formation despite apparently teleporting across vast distances instantaneously. The bridge erupted in confused chatter as officers tried to make sense of readings that violated everything they understood about space travel. Faster-than-light communication was possible. Faster-than-light travel required massive energy expenditures and specialized equipment, but instantaneous translocation was theoretically impossible. Yet the humans were clearly demonstrating technology that the Zephyrian Empire had never even dreamed of developing. "Sir," the tactical officer reported with barely controlled panic, "the human vessels are surrounding us." The impossible made. Real Admiral Zexthol's blood ran cold as he studied the tactical display. Somehow, impossibly, the primitive human fleet had repositioned itself around the Zephyrian formation. Ships that had been light minutes away were now within weapons range, having crossed the distance in the blink of an eye without any detectable energy expenditure or time dilation effects. The human vessels were still laughably small by Zephyrian standards, but their positioning was tactically perfect. They had achieved complete positional superiority through technology that shouldn't exist, turning what should have been a one-sided slaughter into a potential disaster for the supposedly superior force. "All ships defensive posture," the Admiral commanded, his voice tight with growing concern. "Raise shields to maximum and prepare for evasive maneuvers." The order came too late. Human weapons fire erupted from impossible angles, striking Zephyrian vessels with pinpoint accuracy that suggested intimate knowledge of Dominion shield frequencies and armor weak points. But these weren't the primitive kinetic weapons intelligence reports had described. They were coherent energy beams that cut through Zephyrian shields like heated blades through soft metal. 3 cruisers reported critical damage in the first exchange, their shields failing under sustained bombardment from weapons that shouldn't have existed. Fighter squadrons found themselves under attack from human craft that appeared and disappeared faster than targeting computers could track, delivering devastating strikes before vanishing back into the void. "How is this possible?" Admiral Zexthal demanded, watching his perfectly planned operation collapse into chaos. "Our intelligence reported primitive chemical propulsion and basic nuclear weapons." The human revelation. The answer came in the form of a transmission from the human fleet, broadcast on frequencies the Zephyrians hadn't realized the primitive species could access. The image that appeared on the main screen showed a human female, in military uniform, her expression calm and confident despite facing an enemy fleet that should have been able to annihilate her entire species. "Admiral Zexthul of the Zephyrian Dominion," she said, her voice carrying across space with crystal clarity. "I am Admiral Sarah Chen of the Human Space Defense Force. Your intelligence regarding our capabilities appears to have been incomplete." The Admiral stared at the transmission in shock. Not only were the humans using instantaneous faster-than-light communication, but they knew his name and rank despite this being first contact between their species. The implications were staggering. Humanity possessed intelligence-gathering capabilities that had penetrated the most secure military networks in the galaxy. "We've been monitoring your communications for some time," Admiral Chen continued, as if reading his thoughts. "Your discussions about our primitive technology were quite entertaining. We found it interesting that a species so advanced in conventional warfare never considered alternative approaches to the fundamental problems of space combat." Behind her, holographic displays showed detailed schematics of Zephyrian vessels, complete with tactical assessments and identified vulnerabilities. The humans had been studying their enemy far longer than anyone in the Dominion had realized, preparing for this exact confrontation while maintaining the facade of technological inferiority. "You see," Chen explained, with what might have been amusement, "while you focused on building bigger guns and stronger shields, we solved the problem of instantaneous movement. Why build faster ships when you can simply be wherever you need to be?" The technology unveiled. The tactical display updated with new information as human vessels demonstrated their teleportation technology with almost casual ease. Entire squadrons vanished from one position and reappeared in another, executing maneuvers that rendered traditional space combat tactics obsolete. They could attack from any angle, retreat from any position, and concentrate overwhelming force at any point, without warning. Admiral Zexthal began to understand the magnitude of his error. The Zephyrian Empire had spent centuries perfecting conventional approaches to warfare. Better weapons, stronger defenses, faster ships. But the humans had taken an entirely different path, developing technology that made conventional advantages irrelevant. The process is quite simple in principle, Admiral Chen continued, her tone taking on an almost educational quality. We manipulate quantum fields to create temporary bridges through higher dimensional space. Our ships can step outside normal space-time, move to any desired coordinates, and re-enter reality without experiencing the usual constraints of distance or acceleration. The explanation was terrifying in its implications. If humans could teleport their ships at will, then every tactical doctrine in the Zephyrian military was obsolete. Fixed fortifications became meaningless, battle lines could be bypassed instantly, and retreat became impossible when the enemy could appear anywhere without warning. Of course, Chen added with a slight smile, we're not completely unreasonable. We're prepared to discuss terms for your surrender. The final humiliation. The word surrender hit Admiral Zexthal like a physical blow. In 1,000 years of Zephyrian expansion, no enemy had ever suggested that the mighty Dominion should capitulate. The very concept was so alien that his mind struggled to process it. The Zephyrians were the conquerors, the dominators, the species that accepted surrender from others. Around him, the bridge crew stood in stunned silence as more reports poured in from the fleet. Human vessels were systematically dismantling Zephyrian defenses with surgical precision, targeting weapon systems and shield generators while carefully avoiding life support and communication arrays. It was the work of a species that understood both mercy and tactical superiority. "This is impossible," the Admiral whispered, watching another of his cruisers go dark as human teleportation strikes disabled its primary systems. "We are the Zephyrian Dominion. We don't surrender to primitives." "With respect, Admiral," Chen's voice came through the speakers with gentle firmness. "You're not surrendering to primitives. You're surrendering to a species that solved problems you never even knew existed. We've been preparing for this day since your first dismissive response to our contact attempts." The tactical display told the complete story of Zephyrian defeat. More than half the fleet was disabled or destroyed. The survivors scattered and unable to coordinate any effective response. Human forces had achieved total battlefield dominance through superior technology and tactics, turning what should have been a simple demonstration into the Dominion's most humiliating military disaster. The new reality as Admiral Zexthal prepared to broadcast his surrender across all channels. He realized that everything the Zephyrian Empire believed about galactic hierarchy had just been proven wrong. Power didn't come from the biggest guns or the strongest shields. It came from innovation, adaptability, and the willingness to think beyond conventional limitations. The humans had never been primitive. They had been patient, studying their potential enemies while developing technology that rendered traditional military might obsolete. Their seemingly desperate attempts at contact hadn't been the pleas of an inferior species. They had been the measured approaches of a civilization that preferred diplomacy to warfare, but was fully prepared for either option. The Zephyrian Dominion formally requests terms for cessation of hostilities, the Admiral announced, the words bitter in his mouth but necessary for the survival of his remaining forces. Admiral Chen's response was swift and professional. "Terms accepted, Admiral. Please prepare to receive our boarding parties for formal surrender ceremonies. Don't worry. We're not conquerors like you. We're explorers who prefer making friends to making enemies." As human vessels moved into position around the crippled Zephyrian fleet, Admiral Zexthal understood that the galaxy had just shifted on its axis. The age of Zephyrian dominance was over, ended not by a superior military force but by a species that had chosen a completely different path to power. The humans hadn't just won a battle, they had revolutionized the very nature of warfare itself. And somewhere in the back of his mind, the Admiral found himself wondering what other impossible things these remarkable beings might be capable of achieving. The mockery had ended. The age of human ascendancy had begun.